You are listening to the default audio track, which includes instructional narrative. If you'd like to turn off the instructional narrative, simply press the audio button on your DVD remote and listen to music. To turn off the music, press the audio button again to hear just the sounds of the ride. Alright, we're gearing up, getting everything squared away here. This is actually day 2 on this ride. The clouds are a little higher here, and it's a little colder. But the first day, the descent didn't go so well. The camera actually, the mount actually broke, so we had to come up on day 2 and start the ride again, and actually I decided to take a little different route, which worked out to the benefit of the video. First day I just turned around and headed back after we hit the summit. We're not quite at the summit yet. Today we'll hit the summit and just keep going straight. It's beautiful. Once we get up top, we're still buried in the fog here. I'm going to just warm up the legs. Keep it in a real easy gear. Low cadence, warm them up. We're going to hit a couple more climbs. You can see by the hill profile on top, the hill and effort profile have changed since the last video. You'll see the hill profile. We got a little hill coming up soon. Efforts will be actually a little higher today. I'm going to be running up to about 95% on some of the climbs. We got a lot of descending and a lot of green zone, or zone 1 and zone 2 on the descents. Great aerobic workout. This is actually a really nice workout just all by itself. And if you're continuing from the first day, more power to you. This is a great heartbreaker. It's a tough workout, especially with that first hour and a half under your belt, hour and 45 minutes. And you should be still sweating pretty good here, but this is a great warm down with a couple of nice little climbs in between. Now if you're starting from scratch, let's warm up the legs. This first climb is pretty steep up to the very summit of today's ride. And the summit actually marks the finish line for the Gibraltar time trial hill climb race. We're not racing. Here's our climb, so let's start putting it into heavier gear and get into our climbing gear. Six out of 10. I'm gonna slowly drive up the heart rate. And big ring up front. 7 out of 10. Really want to feel positive pressure on the legs here. Eight out of 10. It's cold outside. It's about 50 degrees. The legs are just not wanting to fire up here. They're still cold. We're slow. We're gonna, in this situation, focus on establishing a rhythm, keeping a cadence, in the 60s. Getting steeper here. And our heart rate should be steadily increasing. And let's focus on not over accelerating or over driving the legs here. We're building up to that 90%, which is really where we want to be.
Heart rate's not right.
It was so cold the heart rate monitor wasn't reporting accurately, so I fixed that in the video. We're at a 10 out of 10 here, driving up this mountain, bumpy road, trying to avoid potholes, rocks, trying to keep the bike going forward. Now we're not racing. If this were a time trial race, one of the things we'd do is minimize the amount of rests and maintain a very steady power output. We wouldn't be changing resistance through the legs too much. We'd be shifting very frequently, trying to keep the cadence as high as we could. Each racer has their own, or I should say each climber has a sweet spot for that cadence. For me it's about 80, others it's higher. And that sweet spot will maximize your speed while your heart rate is steady in the high anaerobic zone, right at the threshold, red zone threshold. And we'd be holding that threshold around 89 to 92% of our max throughout the entire climb. And we'd be focusing solely on our heart rate and our cadence. And then when we got to the flats, descents, we wouldn't use those opportunities to warm our hearts down, or I should say slow down, warm down. We'd actually use those opportunities to increase our speed. Real different strategy between effectively climbing and effectively climbing fast. I looked up the results for the Gibraltar climb, and I'm not sure where the climb starts. I assume it was at the beginning of this road, Gibraltar Road, where we did the flyover, and it summits to the top of this climb here, which we're on. We got a beautiful view of the clouds behind us. To the left, or to the left of the screen, to the right of our bike, huge open valley. It was amazing. Get a couple more shots of that while riding up. See, we're still trying to maintain that cadence in the 60s, 65, 70. And I'm not, again, not time trialing. Otherwise, I'd be using a smaller gear, higher cadence. I'd be trying to maintain, this gets so steep in spots that the cadence would drop. But right now we're just trying to keep the legs warm. There's a view of the valley. I should say get the legs warm. And it's getting a little flat here, and we're slowing it up a bit for these shots. We take a little resistance off, give our legs a break.
Over now.
Yeah, so the results for this hill climb, fastest climber was 41 minutes. And it was it's 8 miles.
Back up.
All right, we got a little climb again, so add some resistance. Big ring up front. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation with Fran. Amazing person. I really appreciate all her help. She was working herself to the bone. I was like trying to give her eye signals to slow down.
Sliding down the hill.
She was keeping that effort up.
There is heavier than one.
Keeping me motivated to keep my effort up too. Now we're back in the fog. It's all fog rolling over the top. The ocean is just to our left. So play with that cadence and that gear ratio. Get that heart rate in the 90s. And we're at the top. We're just about taking off some resistance. Is right around the next corner. Stay hydrated. See, we're right there at the top, about 6,800 feet. Taking off all the resistance.
Interesting, but I don't know in these clouds.
This was a shot on the first day. Clouds are a little lower. And we're right on the ridge line here. So to our left, ocean views, if you can catch them. And our right is that magnificent valley. And add a little resistance here. We're got a little climb.
This is a ridge road. On a clear day.
And climbing gear.
To our left. And the valley to our right.
And big ring up front. Let's add some resistance. A little steeper here, but our cadence is a little lower.
Sorry about this slow cadence.
We're just going over. So we're not working too hard, but we're feeling the hill. Climbing gear, 6 out of 10. And we're rounding over the top, so take off all that resistance. Be descending down here.
Break through the cloud tops.
And we got a nice descent here. Sorry about that. We're gonna keep the gear ratio and resistance nice and low, but I wanna keep the pedals moving, keep the legs turning, and keep that heart rate in the aerobic zone, so 70% or higher, until we hit that next climb. Let's keep our legs warm. And enjoy the view. The white backdrop I thought really kind of was neat. It was like a painting. Brings out the colors in the shrubs and grass. It gives you a real sense of perspective of how fast you're going and how windy the road is. It was my first descent on this road, so I was taking it easy. Wasn't going too crazy. You know, if you're racing and you're time trialing, being a good descender is a real important skill. And people ask, what kind of strategies to use to descend a bike. How do you become a good descender? And it's kind of pretty much like climbing. The more you do it, the better you get. And it's really all about comfort, how comfortable you are with the road, how many times you've ridden it, and how comfortable you are with your handling skills. And there's no clear-cut strategy, other than how to approach a corner, how to go into the corner, and how to exit the corner. You can see that the corners are, you're taking the corner at its smallest apex and leaving it at the widest. You're basically trying to take a line that makes the road as straight as possible, using up the entire road and trying to be safe at the same time. There's usually traffic coming up on the other side. This is not a busy road, so we're just keeping our head up. We're planning each corner, planning how to enter it. We're looking for gravel, like right on that corner, so we avoided that. A little gravel on this corner, taking it a little wider than usual. So you really have to have an awareness. If you're just blindly tucking down a windy road, you're probably not going to do so well. On a windy road, stay on your hoods, Don't need to be in your drops. You want to be in a position on your bike where you're most stable. There's some rocks. Some of us are more stable. You know, all a matter of where your weight is distributed on your bike. On the hoods, I have the best control of my bike. Maybe you have it or feel it in your drops. But typically you want your hands to be shoulder width apart. And keep your center of gravity as far between both or as equal between both wheels as possible. So if you need to scooch a little forward to do that, that's where you want to be. You don't want your weight on your back wheel unless you're going into an emergency brake where you have to throw all the power through your brakes, your front and rear brakes, all at once. So we don't want to ride that way though. Here's a little resistance, a little climb here. Keeping the cadence up, keeping the legs moving. Climbing gear, 6 out of 10. And dropping down the backside here. Not quite at our climb yet, we're getting there. So yeah, descending is it's a sport. It's feeling the road, feeling your comfort, breathing comfortably, not riding stiff, keeping the shoulders and elbows bent, keeping your body relaxed. Avoid braking through the corners. Slow down before the corner and accelerate through the corner, pretty much just like with a car, unless the corner's wet. Alright, we're coming up to our second and last climb. And this was a bit more of a climb than I was expecting. So I hit it pretty hard. If you want to pace yourself up, that's probably a better idea. Keeping the heart rate in the low 90s. But hey, it's your last climb. Make the best of it. Let's start adding some resistance. As we're pedaling, we're slowing down. We're feeling the hill a little bit more as we get a little slower. Climbing gear. Get ready for big ring up front.
Legs warmed up.
And big ring up front.
Going back up.
8 out of 10. Nine out of 10. And get out of the saddle. And back down. And steep again. Come out of the saddle.
A little more to go.
And back down.
A lot. It's hard to say.
And 10 out of 10 out of the saddle. Let's get the heart rate up. Let's stay out of the saddle here. Alright, back down. Take off just a little resistance. Power up the climb. Check your heart rate. Bring up the cadence a little bit. Take a little resistance off. A little more.
Good, 7 out of 10.
Cadence right around 80. Good climbing gear here. Hill is leveling off. Take off some resistance. A little descent here, and then another climb. See, I was thinking that this was the end of it, since I can't see the road. And I come around that corner. Oh man. Let's keep the legs turning. Add some resistance.
Another little hill.
Keeping the cadence in about 80. Nice climbing gear. Get your heart rate up. And big ring up front. A little steeper here. Keep a nice steady cadence in the 60s. Got a little steeper climb here. Let's keep that cadence up and get that heart rate up.
Getting steeper.
Staying on the hoods, powering with the legs. You know, big muscles. Keeping the cadence up.
Bit of a climb.
A little bit off. A little bit on. Let's get out of the saddle here. Really raise that heart rate up. And back down. Work for that 93%. We're almost up.
Just when you thought it was over.
Taking off a little resistance. After this corner, there's the last bit of climbing. Seven out of 10. Really feeling the legs. Trying to keep your body still. Shoulders relaxed. Just powering with the quads. Keeping the heart rate nice and high. Almost up. And take some off. Climbing gear. Rounding over the top. Let's take off for some resistance. Take it all off.
Real easy there.
Now let's keep the cadence up. Drive up our speed a little bit. And soft pedal. Again, keeping our heart rate aerobic. Don't want it to drop into zone 1. Staying right around 70% or higher. 70 to 74. Now if you're a confident descender, you'll see a straight right here. You know the route, you know what's coming up. Getting your, get over the bars, get into a nice tuck. And there's a ideal way to tuck and go fast. You'll see different methods during races. Tour de France. Some guys like to sit on the crossbar. That just, helps alleviate pressure or your muscles, your back muscles, and your neck. Makes it a little easier, but it's not as efficient. It's not as fast. It's not as safe. You hit a good bump and you'll be complaining for a few hours. A good tuck. Hands nice and close to the stem. Keeping your elbows tucked in as tight as you can to your body. Standing up over your pedals and leaning over your handlebars. Head down and crank that nose up. So you want your helmet to be level with the ground. If your helmet is, if you're like, the top of your skull is into the wind, your helmet is not very aerodynamic. If you have a time trial helmet, that's got to be as parallel to your direction as possible. So you got to really use those neck and back muscles to crank your head up, keeping the nose into the wind, Keeping your head parallel to the ground, straight into the wind. Keep the knees tight to your bar as well. So your hands are close to your body, your knees are close to your body. You're leaning over your bars. Your head is up, you're looking for danger, keeping those eyes forward. And then just play with your position, and you'll actually feel your body cutting through the wind in certain spots better than others. And all of a sudden you get a little burst of speed. And then just hold that position for as long as you can. Descending can be a lot of fun. Here we have kind of a rough road, windy, unfamiliar. We're not taking any chances. Let's just enjoy our ride to the finish. Stay aerobic. We're below the clouds now. We can actually get a little view out there into the valley. This ride will terminate at Highway 157. 157 is a pretty major road that goes from Santa Barbara into Santa Ynez Valley and into other populated areas. And I've opted not to ride on that highway, even though there are some proposed loops on Map My Ride that takes you basically the way we're going, and then left on 157. I don't like driving that highway, let alone biking it. Add a little resistance here. The road is flattening. And back down. Should feel nice and comfortable. Nice and relaxed. Watch the road. Turn into it if you want. Lean your bike, just don't tip your trainer. Add a little resistance. And take it off. Feeling the wind. Starting to warm up down here. Feels pretty good. Sometimes a nice alternative to going into the drops, staying up on the hoods through the descent, keeping your hands braced against the hoods, let your forearms lay flat on the bars. This way you can get a little more aero and then pop up when you need that control, go down, get a little more aero, and come up on the hoods when you need that control again. You can see straight ahead, a little bit off to the right, is the valley. And you have Solvang out there. That's one of the towns that 157 will take you out to. Really fun little tourist town. Looks like a little Victorian village. Got lots of shops and toffee shops, candy shops, gift shops. It's really neat. And just keep pedaling through these corners. Stay anaerobic. You got a little flat spot here so we can add some resistance. And we're pedaling pretty fast. The cadence is around 95. Trying to eke out the last bit of speed as our ride is ending. Well, thanks for taking the time again with me, listening to me. I always enjoy making these narratives. And it feels like you're actually right here with me. So, thanks again. Hope you enjoyed the ride. And I look forward to you joining me on another ride in the future. Heck, maybe come along with me next time I film something. I'd love to have you there. Have a great day, and we'll see you later. This is BitBop signing out.